20 American tanks. That's all that ever fired a shot before Germany fell. One of them was about to turn a corner in Cologne and meet a German commander who refused to believe what he was looking at. That refusal cost him his crew, and it exposed what an empire had spent 3 years refusing to see. Cologne, March 6, 1945. The cathedral still stands over the city, twin spires clawing at a gray sky. Everything beneath it is broken, streets choked with rubble, buildings gutted to their skeletons, and in that wreckage, a German Panther sits perfectly still. It has already killed today. Minutes earlier, a Sherman rolled into the square. The Panther fired twice. The Sherman never answered. It burned in the street, and the men inside burned with it. That is what this machine is. Patient, dug in. A clear field of fire down a dead avenue. Anything that turns that corner belongs to it. Then the war does something obscene. A civilian car bursts into the open. A man and a woman running from a dying city drive straight between the guns. The car shudders to a halt in the middle of the square. Nobody gets out. The men who fired will carry that for the rest of their lives. One of them will spend decades trying to learn the dead woman's name, and that is the ground the next American tank rolls onto. Eagle 7, an M26 Pershing. Inside it is Clarence Smoyer, a 22-year-old gunner from the coal towns of Pennsylvania, a soft-spoken giant who hates violence and happens to be the deadliest shot in the division. His job is the worst job in the column roll out front, take the first shot, and give the thinner Shermans behind him a chance to live. Tip of the spear, first to die if anything goes wrong. His commander makes the call. They will not wait for the Panther to come to them. They will take it from the side. Eagle 7 noses toward the corner. The next 15 seconds do not just kill a Panther, they kill an illusion. The Pershing rounds the corner. There it is. The Panther, barely 100 yards away, its long gun is already swinging toward them. At this range, nobody misses. The tank that fires first is the tank that lives. The German has the position. The loaded gun. The first clear shot. Everything says he fires now. He does not. Inside the Panther, the commander is staring at a shape that will not fit. Too low, barrel too long, too heavy to be a Sherman, too unfamiliar to be American. His mind reaches for the only answer that keeps the old world intact. That is not a Sherman. That cannot be American. Decades later, his daughter would say the shock never left him. The machine that rolled into that corner should have been a Sherman. It had to be. That was the only answer his war had prepared him for. And while he sat there stunned by a tank that was not supposed to exist, Smoyer laid the crosshairs on his turret. That missing second is all the American gunner needs. Eagle 7 is still rolling. The gun is not settled. The shot is not clean. But waiting means dying. Smoyer fires. The first round hits before the Panther crew can recover. Then a second. Then a third. The Panther shudders, opens, and burns from the inside. Fire punches through the hatches and climbs into the Cologne sky. The commander and several men claw out and run one of them already wrapped in flame. The German gunner buried deep in the turret never gets out. He dies inside the same second his commander gave away. 15 seconds. Corner to kill. 3 years of German certainty gone in 3 shots. A Signal Corps cameraman named Jim Bates caught every frame, the corner, the shots. The flames climbed toward the cathedral spires. Thousands of tank duels vanished into the fog of war. This one survived on film, one of the clearest armored duels ever recorded. Freeze that frame. Freeze it on the German commander gun-loaded enemy in his sights, not firing. A hardened veteran had the drop on his enemy and threw it away. Not a coward, not a fool. By every fact handed to him in 3 years of war, he thought he knew exactly what American armor was. He froze because experience had trained him to expect the wrong thing. For 3 years, every American tank a German crew expected to face wore one name, Sherman. Sherman meant numbers. Sherman meant speed. Sherman meant a machine that could flood a battlefield but never dominate a duel. So when something heavier came out of the smoke, his mind searched the old files first. Familiar shape, number Sherman, number American impossible. The answer came back wrong, but it came back fast enough to kill him. Cologne was not just a tank duel, it was doctrine failing inside a human skull. And to see where that doctrine came from, go back to a single afternoon in June 1944 in a Normandy village called Villers-Bocage. There, one Tiger became the legend every German tanker wanted to believe. In minutes, British armor burned in the streets. 14 tanks plus carriers and trucks wrecked in a single column of smoke. One machine did that. Whether the legend grew taller than the man no longer mattered. The crews took from it the lesson they wanted. Numbers could burn if quality fired first. The numbers under the legend were merciless, and they were real. The 88mm gun on a King Tiger could kill from 2 miles out the target a gray smudge on the horizon, dead before it knew it was hunted. The frontal armor, 150mm thick and sloped, threw off Allied shells like struck matches spinning into the sky. And the Sherman, the tank America bet its whole war on, had no clean answer at range. None. It had to crawl in close, bare its flank, and survive long enough to make a shot count. So the German crews did the math, and the math preached a sermon. Quality beats quantity. By 1944, that was no longer a tactic. It was a faith, a religion cast in armor plate. And every religion has the same fatal flaw. It tells you to stop asking questions. Here is where the German mind made its first mistake. The Sherman was never built to win a knight's duel against a Tiger in an open field. It was built to move with an army that never stopped moving. It could cross oceans. It could be unloaded by the thousands. And it could be fixed. A crew could change a Sherman's entire engine in the field. In just over 4 hours a feat, no German crew could come close to matching. A damaged Sherman was dragged back, patched, refueled, and sent forward again, often within days. A broken Tiger waited for parts Germany no longer had. It was too heavy to recover without a massive, specialized vehicle, and there were never enough of those. So German tanks that could have been saved were simply abandoned where they died. Near Vimoutiers, a single Tiger ran out of fuel on the road, and its own crew blew it up and walked away. Around 60 German armored vehicles were left behind in that one area alone, most of them not killed by enemy fire, but by the system that was supposed to keep them running. The Germans looked at the Sherman and saw a weaker tank. The Americans looked at the Sherman and saw a system: fuel trucks, recovery vehicles, mechanics, spare engines, radio nets, replacement crews, rail lines, ports, factories. Another shipment crossing the Atlantic before the first one finished burning. Germany judged the machine. America built the machine, the road, the repair shop, the replacement, and the next shipment behind it. That was the part of German arrogance never priced. Quantity was not the opposite of quality. In American hands, quantity became a form of quality. It meant the fight continued after the first loss. It meant one dead tank did not break an attack. It meant a battlefield could absorb damage and keep moving forward. But the Germans didn't see the system. They saw the silhouette, a smaller gun, thinner armor, a machine they had learned to kill. And every kill fed the faith. One German ace in a single afternoon on the Eastern Front was credited with destroying dozens of Soviet tanks and walking away. Stories like that were the wallpaper of the Panzer Corps. Live inside numbers like that long enough, and the idea of a factory hand in Detroit threatening you stops being wrong and starts being insulting. Every kill made them more certain. Every certainty made them less curious. And every time they stopped being curious, the future moved one step closer without them. The Germans had the clues. That is the terrifying part. Spies, reconnaissance flights, intercepted signals, reports from the front. They were not missing the truth. They were rejecting it. When German commanders looked west, they saw no rival. They saw assembly lines, car factories, farm boys in uniform, immigrants behind welding masks. America could mass-produce war, they believed, but it could not master it. Real weapons came from disciplined engineers and old arsenals, not from Detroit workers punching time cards beside a conveyor belt. So the first reports died on the desk. A strange American tank, a longer gun, heavier armor than a Sherman had any business carrying. The German command read the words and reached for the comfortable answer. New model Sherman, minor upgrade. Nothing worth losing sleep over. Ignorance does not see the truth. Contempt sees it, then renames it until it feels safe. A strange new tank became another Sherman. A longer gun became a minor change. A threat became a footnote. And while the Germans waved off what they couldn't picture, the Americans were hiding what they had already built. Operation Zebra. 20 M26 Pershing sealed into the holds of ships and sent across an Atlantic thick with U-boats. The crews carried orders to lie. Anyone asks, these are new Shermans. Nothing special. Plain olive drab paint, one tank folded into each Sherman company hidden in the open. America spent fuel steel and total secrecy to hide a weapon the enemy had already ruled impossible. The Germans were bolting the front door against a threat they'd laughed out of the room. So when Eagle 7 came around that corner, the German commander wasn't looking at a tank. He was looking at the collapse of everything he believed. His eyes saw Pershing. His pride refused delivery. The gap between the two was exactly 1 second wide, and it was the most expensive second of his life. He was right about one thing though. The tank that killed his Panther was not by itself a perfect machine. The Pershing was better armored than a Sherman, heavier, more dangerous, far more shocking to German eyes. But it was not magic. It arrived late. Its standard 90mm gun did not erase every German advantage on paper, so if only 20 Pershings fired in Europe, why did they matter? You cannot answer that by looking at the tank. You have to look at the country that built it. Cologne was not a hammer blow, it was a warning shot. 20 is not enough to win a war or sweep a continent or redraw a map. But 20 is enough to reveal direction. 20 is enough to show an enemy what is coming next. If America could build 20, it could ship 200. If it could ship 200, it could pour out 2,000. And every German tanker who had spent years hunting Shermans would soon be staring down something heavier. Across the entire war, straining every factory it had Germany built, about 1,300 Tiger ones and under 500 King Tigers. Fewer than 2,000 legendary heavy Tigers total in 6 years, each one swallowing rare materials, transport fuel, and time Germany no longer had. The United States poured out 49,000 Shermans and then started pushing a brand new heavy tank into the war on top of them without slowing the Shermans down. Germany built masterpieces in numbers too small to save itself. America built a system in numbers Germany could not begin to answer. And honesty is what makes this land. There were two guns in this story, and they are not the same gun. The first, the standard 90 that killed the Panther at Cologne, was no miracle. In some categories, German heavy armor still had the edge on paper. Stop the story there, and Berlin sleeps easy. The story didn't stop there. While the German Empire burned and its engineers kept sketching flawless tanks on paper that would never turn a wheel, America had already built the next answer. A new gun, the T-15E1, mounted on an upgraded Pershing. A different weapon a generation ahead. It threw a shell at over 3,700 feet per second and punched through more than 8 inches of sloped armor at 1,000 yards, more than the King Tiger's own gun could manage. On a test range, that round went in the front of a German tank destroyer, clean through the whole vehicle, and buried itself in the dirt behind it. The old gun trailed the Germans. The new gun left them behind. The same caliber they'd sneered at shoved past the peak of German engineering itself. It came late, and the reason cuts close to home. The enemy in front of America was Germany. The obstacle inside America was its own stubbornness, a doctrine that swore tanks should not fight tanks, and it strangled the heavy tank for years. The cost was paid in blood in the hedgerows in the villages on roads where Sherman crews learned that courage could not always make up for metal. When Eisenhower learned in Normandy that his guns still couldn't crack a Panther head-on, he was furious. And that is where America became more dangerous than Germany ever understood. American power was not clean. It was not elegant. It argued with itself, wasted time, sent men into battle with weapons that should have been better. But when the mistake became undeniable, the system moved. Reports came back. Tankers complained. Commanders shouted, engineers redesigned, factories retooled. Workers who had built cars and tractors and washing machines learned to build war machines instead. A brittle system protects its pride. A living system protects its future. A dictatorship can change its weapons, but it cannot admit the whole idea was wrong. America could be wrong, say it out loud, and then build the correction at industrial speed. Not perfection, correction. That was the American weapon. And the people who built it were not master engineers in a fortress lab. They were welders and machinists and farm wives who had never touched a weapon in their lives, spread across 22 states, learning to forge a heavy tank faster than Germany could repair the ones it already had. The German commander couldn't see that through his periscope and couldn't have survived seeing it. The thing that beat him was never a tank. It was a whole civilization. A loud, messy democracy of immigrants and farm boys and factory women that could be wrong, admit it, and outbuild the most disciplined war machine on Earth all at once. That was the fact his pride had spent 3 years refusing. It arrived in the muzzle of a gun he could not believe was American. Back to that square, back to 1 second. The Germans held every piece of the truth. The reports, the sightings, the evidence. They were not missing information. They were missing the nerve to believe what the information told them. The Pershing was never a miracle. Its early models had flaws. Its first gun did not make every German advantage vanish. It did not need to be perfect. It only needed to force an empire to look just once at the thing it had spent 3 years refusing to see. American workers in Detroit could build anything Germany could build, and then build it 1,000 times over. The hunters became thus hunted, not because they were surprised, because their own contempt had blinded them to a threat standing in plain sight. The most dangerous enemy a nation faces is never the one it cannot see. It is the one it refuses to believe in. The German crews of 1945 learned that down the barrel of a gun they had been told could not exist, built by a people they had been taught to look down on. If arrogance could blind the most feared army on earth to the truth right in front of it, what is it blinding us to right now? The next war will not go to the nation that looks strongest. It will go to the nation willing to learn fastest. And if stories like this still matter to you, the machines, the mistakes, and the single seconds that change how wars are fought stay with us. Some turning points are still buried where no one thinks to look.